Welcome to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast. The P.A.S. Report provides an honest analysis on the critical issues that matter to you without the biased media filters. Here's your host, Professor Nick Giordano.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the P.A.S. Report Podcast. This is your host, Nick Giordano. Glad you could join me. Make sure that you follow and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Also, visit the P.A.S. Report website, pasreport.com. I got a great guest for today. I got Kevin Smith, Loud Majority, coming on to discuss what's happening out in the political world. Kevin, thanks for coming on the program. How are you today?
Great, Nick. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. And I know you're really upset because you woke up this morning and you heard about the official resignation of Ronna McDaniel from the RNC. So my condolences to you. How do you feel about Ronna going by the wayside?
I don't know what the RNC is going to do now. You know, they don't get to spend $80,000 on flowers or a $250,000 on limousines. We might spend them on candidates or on voter registration drives or in promoting grassroots activism like mine. We might put them towards good things like get out the vote text messages or not sending out flyers that were definitely designed in 1975. Then, you know, they might go towards, some more practical things, updating the system a little bit.
You know, that's all great points. And as far as the RNC goes, they're a pathetic organization. They don't have a good ground game. And that's where Democrats have excelled. I mean, let's be honest here. Democrat activism has always, they have the ground game intact. And even better for them, they get taxpayer-funded grants from all these quote-unquote nonprofits that are operated but actually just push the Democrat messaging. When you look at it, what do you think Republicans need to start doing in order to get that ground game going?
Well, you know, and I use us as the example, the activism that myself and Sean Farish did here on Long Island. A lot of activism on the right comes from people who can only do it part-time because they have jobs. They have, on the left, these ballot harvesters, that's their 9 to 5. That's their job. That's where, because they're giving money to the nonprofits, they're giving money to the NGOs. And I talk about it, and I look at a guy like Scott Pressler. What Scott could do with just a little bit of money. No one's asking for the moon here, but if you were able to pay a Scott Pressler in every state to register voters, to ballot harvest, to do anything, to go and speak to the local communities, to go and speak to the colleges and to the high schools and get people engaged and get them involved, it would move mountains. And that is what an organization like the RNC could do. It's not what they've been doing, but what they could do, because a lot of people say down with the institutions and we don't need the RNC. No, you need something at the top, whatever you want to call that thing, whether it's, take Turning Point USA, for example. You need an entity at the top that can then delineate down below. And that's why I think Turning Point has basically become the de facto RNC.
You know, when you look at it, I mean, that's a great point that you're bringing up, because you have the RNC, but as the RNC hasn't been all that successful, as they've been mired in scandal, as they have pathetic leadership, it's filtered down to the state GOP apparatus as well. Now, in New York, in Chicago, in Baltimore, we are seeing signs that the people in these communities, I mean, Republicans long surrendered these communities, unfortunately, and they haven't gone back to these communities since, but we see that there is an opening. Like, what do you think the Republicans should be doing to exploit that opening, given the illegal immigrant crisis?
Well, I think one big thing, and look, whether we like it or not, elections come down to money. And at the current moment in time, there are so many seats, and I'm sure Baltimore is like this. I'm sure LA is like this. I'm sure there's plenty of places in New York that are like this, where Democrats run unopposed. And these unopposed candidates win spending no money. So their entire job is to fundraise for the more competitive races. I think we need to be putting a name forward in every race, statewide, congressionally, locally. That way, the Democrats, at the very least, have to campaign in those particular districts, because without that, all you're doing is basically teaming up. Look, there are certain congressional districts where a Republican is not going to win based on the maps. And just to be fair, there are certain congressional districts that a Democrat is never going to win just based on the math. But if we put up competitive candidates in districts like Nancy Pelosi's, like AOC's, like Adam Schiff's district, like some of these blue areas all over the country, we can then get rising stars ready for maybe a more competitive race. We saw Kim Klacik in Baltimore. Kim Klasik's race in Baltimore, she was never going to win. She lost 75-25, but she became a national star. She was able to energize more people in that community. And because of that, perhaps Larry Hogan may become the next senator from the state of Maryland. And Larry Hogan's not my favorite, obviously. But if you can peel 5% out of Baltimore, that flips the state. If you could peel 5% out of the Bronx, that flips New York. If you can peel 5%, maybe not LA, but if you can peel 5% from San Francisco, LA, Sacramento, San Diego, all of those large cities in California, who knows what's possible? And I think that's what it's got to be. I think we need to energize people in these cities who want change, who want to be leaders. And we don't do that right now. We're stuck fighting the Cold War.
Yeah, and that's the stupidity of the Republicans, because they look at it as, oh, we can't win. Why are we going to waste time, money, and effort in these areas? But when you're looking at statewide elections, well, those down ballot candidates can actually filter to the up ballot candidates. That's number one. And so if you're peeling off 5-6%, yeah, that can make all the difference. More importantly, if you're doing it every election cycle, well, sooner or later, you could get close to the majority, if not the majority, if you actually put the time and effort in. But they won't do that because they're morons. But also, what the Republicans don't realize is that when Democrats have city areas locked up and they don't have a challenge, they begin to bus all their volunteers into the suburbs and the more competitive districts. So you've seen this on Long Island. Can you explain it to the audience?
Oh, absolutely. So, there's Democrats from New York City, from areas of Brooklyn, from areas of Queens, where they don't run competitive races, so they don't campaign there. And what do? They come out here to Long Island. It's not hard. It's a half-hour drive. So imagine you're living in Florida, the red bastion of America right now, and you got Orlando, a blue city. And no one runs competitively there. Well, it wouldn't be very hard to take the volunteers out of Orlando, bus them 10, 15 minutes east, west, north, or south into what could be a competitive area. And therefore, you lose that race. Even in the smaller places here in New York, Rochester, Binghamton, Buffalo, like the secondary major metros all over the country. If maybe we're not going to win Atlanta, but maybe we could be competitive in Savannah. Maybe we can be competitive in Athens. I mean, we're not going to win Detroit, but maybe we can get Lansing, Michigan. Maybe we can get Flint, Michigan. Maybe we could make a dent in these areas. And if we're able to make that dent, that changes the entire makeup of the state.
It does. And one thing that Republicans need to recognize and understand is that the last time they won the popular vote, along with the Electoral College vote, was actually in 1988. You have to go all the way back to George H.W. Bush. So this is a major problem for Republicans, that they need to figure this one out, because at some point you have to win the plurality of the popular vote and the Electoral College vote. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to talk to you about the 2024 race, more particularly President Biden. So everyone hang tight. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So, Kevin, as far as President Biden is concerned, do you think that President Biden is really going to be the Democrat nominee, or do you think that at some point we're going to see a late swap out for someone else? What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's going to be the candidate. I think and this goes against many of my friends and many of the ideology on the right. I think that throwing Michelle Obama's name out there sounds great, but I got to be honest with you. I think that there are enough Democrats, 1%, 2%, 3% of them, that would sit there and go, wait. You told us that Joe Biden was okay. You told us he was mentally competent. You told us he was doing a great job. Now you're swapping him out with some lady who hasn't done anything before. There are enough people that would get mad about that and I'm not saying vote for Trump, vote for Kennedy, vote for Cornel West, vote for Jill Stein, vote for that other guy who keeps putting up Twitter ads, whose name I can't remember. Like,
who's not important enough to remember.
Yes, there would be enough protest votes to really flip some of these seats. I mean, obviously, we don't have
But can
any other.
any Democrat really say, well, you told us he was mentally sound? I mean, we all see what we see on the television screens. We hear what we hear. It's not like, this is breaking news that Biden suffers from either dementia or Alzheimer's or senility or a combination of the three. I mean, for any Democrat that really thinks Biden still has all his mental faculties intact, I mean, they got to be smoking what Hunter Biden's smoking.
Well, maybe he's getting some. I don't know. Does crack have secondhand smoke? I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. But it.
We should ask the White House about that. Because I think they still haven't identified whose bag of cocaine it was.
And maybe that's why the dog keeps biting people. He's rabid. He's getting some of Hunter's crack secondhand smoke. But I think there would be enough in certain places to probably just go, you know what, I'm done. You lied to me this whole time. Not the radical ones. I'm talking about the normie ones. A lot of people, if they replaced him with a Gavin Newsom, there are a lot of normies out there. The guy you run into in 7-Eleven, the average person who doesn't follow politics, who goes, who the hell's Gavin Newsom? I don't know anything about this guy.
Agreed. You keep on hearing his name, and I'm like, no one outside of New York, D.C., or California knows him. And if you are going to swap Biden out, you have to swap him with someone that has 100% name ID. You can't have someone that's just introducing themselves to the American public with 2 months to go before a major election. That doesn't work.
And it would have to be Michelle Obama because you can't.
No, it won't. No, here's where I disagree with you. See, Michelle Obama, I don't think she wants any part of it.
No. I don't think she wants it either, but I think she's the only one they could.
No, there's someone else. What about, there's one person that exists that has 100% name recognition, that has a nationwide campaign that's ready to go, and that could raise a ton of money.
Oprah?
She doesn't have the campaign. Okay. She has the name recognition. She has the money, but she doesn't have the campaign apparatus.
Gretchen Whitmer?
No, you got to think back to 2016, the person that believed that she was really president.
Yeah, please. Are you listening? Give me Hillary Clinton, please. Oh, that would be spectacular.
I'm telling you, don't be surprised if we see a 2016 rematch. If they need to swap him out late, I don't see anyone else that could do it except for her because she still has the campaign apparatus built in.
Oh yeah, the Clinton machine is certainly not dead, as we see with her former chief of staff Huma Abedin now dating Alex Soros, which I'm pretty sure is the cocktail for the end of the earth. But you little Huma, little Soros, boom. But I mean, there is no way the Democrats could be that arrogant. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them, but I think that would piss off so many people on their radical left that they would probably run a Ayanna Pressley just to be spiteful. They'd throw somebody else in there like that. I think that would make more people go to Cornel West, the most radical left Democrats, the people who are saying, oh, you're replacing the first ever black female vice president with another old white lady. They have backed themselves into so many corners by not being principled. And the Kamala Harris conundrum has got to be screwing with the John Podestas and the Chicago machine in the Democratic Party right now.
Well, I say that if they do, let's say, elevate Kamala to the top of the ticket, then it's just a throwaway election, that they feel that they lost it. They're just elevating her to the top so they don't have to deal with the blowback from people, the claims of racism, and so that they could just get rid of her before 2028. But despite all that, so we see the Democrat challenges. Despite all that, it's still going to be a real close presidential election. I mean, given everything that's going on, all the Democrat failures, the policies that exist, and Republicans better smarten up and stop just tagging the failures of the Biden administration on Biden's senility. These are Democrat policies that have been a failure. It's not necessarily Biden himself. It's their policies that have failed. But when you look at it, there's still a large segment of this country that would say, you know what, I'll take the dementia patient over Trump. How do you get over that?
Well, I think that, and look, we have to use these numbers. I know a lot of people don't believe them, but what is it? 34,000 votes in 3 states. That's going to be the election. That is the target area right now. And, first off, I think we have
But I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is at this stage right now, the only people that could claim that their lives have gotten better under the Biden administration are extraordinarily wealthy individuals and people that own green energy companies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. If you're middle class, upper, lower, or just middle class, if you're impoverished, your life has gotten far more difficult under this administration. How scary is it that there's people out there that will say, okay, I'm having difficulty paying my bills. I have to juggle. We have all these illegal immigrants coming in. They're sapping all the resources, but yet I'm still going to vote Democrat because the Republicans are that much worse. Like,
You
how
know,
frightening is that? I mean,
I think,
Republicans suck. Don't get me wrong. I'm
yeah.
not trying to say that Republicans are this great political party that's going to take America to the next level. Many of them have shown themselves to be failures. Many of them are part of the same swamp that exists. Many of them are just totally inept and incompetent. But at the same time, you know, they're definitely better at this point than the Democrat policies that have been in place.
Well, then I think it's up to Republicans to go to places that we've never gone before, and there are so many people out there willing to do it. If you're a Republican and you're listening to this and you're waiting for guidance from your local party, then you are SOL, okay? Because these people will not change, okay? So if you're living in a state that has been traditionally out of reach, New Jersey, and you want to make a change, go to Trenton, go to Newark. Go to these places and tell people, is your life better than it was 5 years ago? Get them involved. It is not as difficult as you might think to do. Look, Republicans will not go to the inner city because they think that it's unwinnable. However, as you and I saw firsthand, if Republicans had spent a little bit of time in the Bronx, a little bit more time in Manhattan, we'd have Governor Lee Zeldin right now. If they had spent a little bit more time in Binghamton or Rochester or Syracuse, we'd have Governor Zeldin, and I'd be freezing to death in Albany right now. Just kidding. But it is up to each and every one of us, and I think that's what we've proven out here on Long Island is that if there's enough people out there in your local community, you don't need 1,000 people. All you need is 10 people, and you could take over the country. You could take over your whole local apparatus. Just 10 motivated people who talk to 10 motivated people. And that is how you grow a grassroots movement. And, it is not as hard as you would think. I mean, if anyone wants to get involved wherever you live, reach out to me and I will teach you how to do this. And it's not, this isn't something like buy into my program. It's not I'll just text you on Twitter. I'll give you free advice.
For $199, you'll find out all the secrets.
This is not the Church of Scientology here. We don't do that.
Well, when you look at it, you actually brought up New Jersey. I mean, you had the Republican candidate for governorship, Ciparelli or whatever his name is. I can't recall it off the top of my head. But he came within 19,000 votes. Had the RNC did a little bit of legwork there, he could have actually won that seat. So you're right. Mm-hmm. It really isn't that complicated. Politics is never that complicated. Yeah. But what I find the problem when it comes to people that are, and I'm talking about ordinary people out there, so every one of you listen up out there, what Republicans is, we're really good at complaining about everything. We're really good at complaining about the candidates, complaining about rhinos, complaining about, just elections. But that's where it stops. I look at campaigns that struggle to get volunteers, that they're begging people to just take a weekend out of their lives to go and volunteer. So we're good at complaining, but we're not that good at getting involved. How do you explain that? And I understand, I know you're going to say because a lot of them have jobs. I get that part.
Well, no, it's because Republican conservative for the longest time meant boring. The one thing that
we're fun.
We are fun, but I know you've been to some of these local party meetings. It's like going to the graveyard. Everyone there's 2,000 years old. The local parties are so arrogant that they won't reach out to young Republican organizations. They won't reach out to Turning Point USA because they want the control. So if you're a candidate and you're running, find out about your local college Republicans. Every one of them wants to get involved. Every one of them is rip-roaring, gun-ho. They're going to change the world because they're college kids. That's what they do.
They got energy.
You know what? They got energy. So get them out there. Make it fun. Have a fundraiser at a bar that plays good music instead of your local VFW hall. Go to your local bar and say, hey, what's your slowest day? I'm going to fill this place. You let me keep the door for my fundraising. I promise you people will show up. Wednesday night, hey, come down and grab a beer at a bar you wouldn't normally go to, and let's talk politics. If you like President Trump, come to Johnny's Pub on Main Street. It's $10 at the door, and there's your fundraising start. And you're going to fill that, and the local business is going to love you for it. And there's so many outside the box ways. But we sit there and we just go back to the tried and true, oh, well, this worked in 1988, back when people read their mail. You get mailers. If you're watching this, you get mailers in the mail. Has your vote ever been swayed by a flyer you got sent in the mail? Well, that's your local party spending 30 grand to send you something that you throw into your trash before it even makes it into the house. And it is the animals that don't evolve die. They die off. And unfortunately, fortunately, I think there's a lot of young people out there that are really willing to try new things and get people involved. Last week, I was in Philadelphia registering voters at a gun show. Why wasn't the Philadelphia GOP there? Why wasn't the Pennsylvania GOP there? Because why would they do that?
Yeah.
Like,
why do common sense? I don't know. I mean, isn't it true? Like our friend Vicky Palladino, I mean, the reason that she was successful is because she actually hosts interesting meetings. She actually brings speakers in. She fills the audience up. Whereas it's not just the party bosses that are speaking every single month at the same meeting that the 5 people show up to.
Mm-hmm. And, the only time they reach out to you is when they want money. You go to Vicky Palladino's meetings, you can just walk in and you meet your friends and you say hello and you BS, you have a beer, you talk, there's cookie and coffee in the back. It's a community event, which means that the community will hold the people in that meeting accountable for not volunteering. Because if you go down to Vicky Palladino's office and you're the only one there, next time you go to the Whitestone Republican Club, you can look at all the people who saying they want to get involved and go, well, where the hell were you? I was there by myself. Nobody does that. The only time the local party hits you up is when they want money. And, I don't know, throw a free event with your local electeds so that people can converse with them. I'm not going to go work for somebody that I don't know, that I don't feel some affinity with, that I don't believe in. The days of people working and volunteering for people just because there's an R next to their name, those days are long gone.
Yeah, and I see it every day in the classroom. My students are much less engaged than they were pre-COVID. I used to put out internship opportunities with both Republican and Democrat candidates because I'm always fair like that. If a Republican candidate asks me to do interns for my classes, well, I say I got to talk to the Democratic candidate and offer it both sides to my classroom. I used to be able to get dozens of volunteers, and now it's like pulling teeth trying to get people to volunteer for these campaigns, even though it opens doors for them. So have you seen that it's much more difficult getting people out there in this day and age, particularly young people?
It seems as though that, for me at least, what I've noticed is that it's harder to get people out, but the ones you do get out tend to be more passionate. Because if you're 21 years old and you're volunteering for a congressional candidate, you're probably jacked up about it. Because let's be honest here, when I was 21 years old, man, I don't think I could have told you who the president was. I had one goal when I was 21, get from where I was to the club. That was it. That was all I cared about. So I think that I think you're starting to see a lot more young people be passionate. And here's the thing, is that if you get one, you can get 10, because I know kids in high school that will wear loud majority gear and they get thumbs up, they're talking to it, they bring their friends to events. You make it fun. We started a couple Turning Point chapters out here on Long Island, and it is now the counterculture to be a Republican. You want to be edgy in high school, you write a paper about how Candace Owens inspires you, and you watch. People will not know what to do with themselves. There was a kid, I think they're from Whitestone. For Black History Month, they wrote a paper about Candace Owens, and their teacher said no. So I got on the old horn, spoke with the principal, and said, I promise you, I will make you famous. Wouldn't you know it? That paper got accepted because it put a little bit of pressure on these people, and a little bit of pressure. You don't got to go all out and have 10,000 people outside of a school or outside of somebody's office. You make 20 phone calls to your congressional office, they will freak out because they're not used to it.
It's because nobody calls them. I mean, people are indoctrinated with the belief that Congress only exists to make laws. They don't realize there's this whole constituency services thing that happens where they can contact their legislature and try and influence the process. And I think that's part of the problem in the United States, because we have a failed education system that never taught people their civic obligations and how the government actually functions, the purpose and the role of government. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to talk to you about things that are coming up. So everyone hang tight. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. So, Kevin, 2024 race is here. You're ramping up. What is the loud majority doing in the 2024 elections? What do you have prepared going forward?
Well, at least for now, I'm doing a lot of stuff in swing states. Like I said, I was just in Philadelphia. Obviously, once the weather gets better, we will get rip roaring, ready to go out there rallying all over the place. I'm going to pick and choose my candidates that I get behind a little bit better this time, because there are a lot of useless people who benefited from a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from us, Nick Lalota. And not to say any names, but a lot of useless people benefited from a lot of hard work from a lot of volunteers, and I'm not going to waste people's time. But the Trump rallies are fun, man. Donald Trump thinks New York is in play, and from his lips to God's ears, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to get those 28 electoral votes here in New York. I know a lot of friends of mine are 28. Yeah, we just lost one. Probably lose more in 2030. But
I don't know. That's why they're, filtering in the illegal immigrants, because the census includes residents. It doesn't matter. Citizen, non-citizen, doesn't matter. So who knows what the next sentence, what it'll look like.
That gives me such hope, though, because not the immigrant thing, we're losing electoral power, because the 400,000 people who left the state of New York left
would have won Zeldin.
It would have won Zeldin, but when it comes presidential, we don't know if they went to Pennsylvania. We don't know if they went to Jersey. We don't know if they went to New Hampshire or Connecticut. We don't know if all the people who fled California went to Arizona, Nevada, because Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, that's an election. That's the ball game right there. Without Wisconsin, without Michigan, without North Carolina, without Virginia, without Georgia, just those three. That's an election. So how many, and I'm sure you can name, I don't know, 50 people off the top of your head, guys you grew up with, coworkers, your neighbors, that are now voting for Governor DeSantis, that are now voting for candidates in some of these swing states. They all fled. So how many left? Is it that 34,000? Is it that 43,000 in 3 states? Because if it is, we could see an electoral landslide. And look, you said it with New Jersey. If New Jersey flips, Democrats can't win mathematically, because if Jersey flips, that's the Philadelphia area, that's Pennsylvania, and we can all go to sleep nice and early on election night. Early.
The way it should be. We should be able to figure out who's president on election night.
If we can figure out who wins American Idol that night, I know who wins. Well, I don't watch it, but people
don't lie. Don't lie.
I don't. I stopped watching right around Carrie Underwood. But they called Dancing with the Stars that night, but I gotta wait 3 months. I still do not know who won the 2020 Democratic Iowa caucus. We still don't know. No one has come out with that number yet. And I think it's pretty absurd that on primary night, they all come in instantly. They called South Carolina for Trump yesterday in like 90 seconds. So what is going on in all of it's so funny too, because people can name cities. Very rarely can you name the county, but everybody knows that Nevada is in Clark County. Everybody knows that Atlanta is in Fulton County. Everybody knows that Phoenix and Scottsdale are in Maricopa County. Who the hell can name the counties that these places were in beforehand? But we all know it now.
Yeah, and it really is a scam. I mean, when you're looking at it, you go back 40 years ago, 50 years ago, before this technology that we could figure out who's president on election night. Yeah, today we can't. Truly amazing. Now, one more thing. When we look at Trump rallies, I've constantly said that he needs to do the inner city rallies. He doesn't need 50,000 people in a stadium somewhere. He doesn't. If he could get 1,000 people, 2,000 people at a rally in, let's say, South Bronx, which he's considering doing, let's say areas of Brooklyn, let's say areas of Chicago and Baltimore, how much do you think that will change the dynamics? Or do you think it'll change the dynamics at all?
Oh, I absolutely think it would, for particularly because it wouldn't be hard for Trump to fill the garden. 18,000 people in New York, they'd come from all over the place. Now, will the particular municipality allow a Trump rally in Chicago, or where they give it, oh, we can't put you in wherever the hell the Bulls play. We can't put you in, this arena. I think that if Trump did a rally at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, I think that would bring down the house. I think people would go apoplectic, and I think it would be fantastic, man. I mean, that's the only thing that could get me to go to Yankee Stadium.
No. Well, I mean, listen, I just avoid crowds altogether, but the Yankees, hopefully they'll be a good team this year, at least in my opinion. You're a Met fan, so disgusting.
Yeah. So spring training started a couple days ago. The season ended yesterday.
Yeah, well, no, I love the Met fans that every year, this is the year, and they'll say it up until the All-Star game, and then the Mets will be on fire, and then all of a sudden they just flame out. It's like, same story over and over again. But as far as going forward, last question, what do you think the redistricting in New York is going to look like? How do you think it's going to affect Republicans? Do you think that the red wave that we saw in 2022, do you think that's going to go away in 2024? Do you think that the Republicans will be able to hold their own with the redistricting?
I think that they're in trouble. I think that they're in big, big trouble. They saw what happened when the districts were in their favor. I would say that at least 5 Republicans in New York are probably in serious trouble. That would be Brandon Williams, Mark Molinaro, Mike Lawler, Anthony D'Esposito, and I would have said George Santos, but luckily our Republicans took care of that one for us because, in their infinite wisdom, losing us a seat in the House. Thanks, guys. But I would say those guys are probably in trouble. Claudia Tenney, who I'm a fan of, would be on the cusp of trouble. I think that Elise Stefanik stays. I think Andrew Garbarino stays. I think Nick LaLota stays. I think that Nick Langworthy stays in Western New York. But I would say we probably lose about 5 seats here in New York. I think 5 would be conservative. Maybe Lawler does okay, but I think the other ones are in trouble.
Well, Republicans need to wake up and they need to get in the game. Speak to you out there. So tell us, where can people find you?
You guys can follow me over at rumble.com/loudmajorityus. That's rumble.com/loudmajorityus. I also do a daily show on Rumble on LFA TV. If you guys want to sign up for our newsletter, so you guys will know what we're doing. I go all over the country. I try to go all over the country and help energize the grassroots everywhere. You can go to loudmajorityusa.com, sign up for the newsletter over there, and we will get rocking and rolling, baby.
Sounds good. And we'll have the links up at the PAS Report website. So don't forget, visit PASreport.com. Kevin, thank you for joining me. Always enjoy the conversation.
Thanks for having me, Professor.
Thank you for listening to the P.A.S. Report Weekly Roundup Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Be sure to rate, share, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Also, visit PASreport.com and follow us on Twitter at PAS Report.